Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you wherever you are. And welcome to this information webinar on user-friendly ABS procedures to look at what are the requirements and what do we need to know and what do we need to do. My name is Takunyoshi Kongo, and I'm the head of the ABS unit in the Secretariat of the convention. And with me this morning is the ABS team, joined by one of our collaborators. And I would ask the team to introduce themselves, starting with Beatrice.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Beatriz Gomez, and I work also on the Nagoya Protocol unit, and particularly with national reports and assessment and review. So I pass maybe the floor to Gisela, as I see it in the window.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Gisela Talamas, and I am also part of the ABS unit. And more specifically, I work with the ABS clearinghouse. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, hello everybody. My name is Matthew Diaz. I'm also a program officer here at the Secretariat in the ABS unit. One of my primary responsibilities is the ABS clearinghouse. Farah, want to go ahead?
Hi everyone, my name is Nusrat Farah, and I'm working as a program management assistant in the ABS unit. And I'm working in general with the unit, and it's good to see you all here. Back to you, Tauko.
Thank you. I think since we have Melania there, Melania, you may also introduce yourself.
Thank you, Taco. My name is Melania Munoz. I work at the Leibniz Institute DSMC, that is the German collection of microorganisms and cell cultures. And we are collaborating with the ABS clearinghouse in developing these user-friendly ABS procedures. Thank you.
Thank you, Melania. Now, let me just quickly give some overview and introductory welcoming remarks to all of you. As I've said before, welcome to this second webinar in our series of information sharing webinars. And what brought us here this morning, if we take a reflective sort of step and go back in memory lane, we saw the third objective of the convention, benefit sharing and access, and then the ABS working group that led to the Nagoya Protocol. Then the ratification process started, administrative policy and legislative measures were developed, and then implementation started, and we had the review of implementation of the protocol. And within that was also, of course, the ABS global workshops that brought together providers and users and others to deliberate and see what progress has been made. And we also saw in COP-MOP 1 the emergence of the core elements for capacity building that were revised, and COP-MOP 5 adopted them into the capacity building and development action plan for the Nagoya Protocol. That was decision Nagoya Protocol 5/3. And in that decision, parties requested the Secretariat to continue to facilitate capacity building and development activities so that it can support the effective implementation of the Nagoya Protocol. Parties also asked for supporting opportunities for compiling and sharing lessons learned, as well as good practices, and to make those available through the Access and Benefit Sharing Clearinghouse. When we engage in the issue of capacity building, of course, this cannot be done without partners. And so in this endeavor, we are grateful for the generous support that we have received from the government of Denmark and the government of Japan through the Japan Biodiversity Fund. And what we are now doing is launching what we are calling the ABS Small Grants project. And they are part of our capacity building and development program, which has the aim to support the operationalization of legal frameworks and systems for ABS during this biennium. The reason why we are doing this is that based on previously identified needs by parties and relevant stakeholders in the processes that I've outlined, the review of the implementation of the protocol, the various capacity building initiatives that we've had, the ABS global workshops. Out of that, these needs were identified. And so through this initiative, we aim to support practical efforts to advance the achievement of Goal C and Target 13 of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework through providing these small grants to translate the Nagoya Protocol into effective and efficient actions that make ABS and the protocol's objectives a reality on the ground. And of course, through that, also implement the recently approved Nagoya Protocol Action Plan. Now, what is this program all about? We had provided you with a notification that outlined that the program consists of 3 focal areas. Yesterday, we deliberated on improving ABS information systems and standard operating procedures, and the need for managing the information so that it can provide the answers to questions that you or the users may have. Today, we are looking at communicating user-friendly ABS procedures, and we are doing this in partnership with the Nagoya Protocol Hub. Of course, it is not enough to have your measures in place. Those measures, the procedures that explains how, in which way those measures are to be used is important. And that is why we are doing this today. And then the third part of our series will be looking at developing and implementing community protocols and improving access to traditional knowledge associated with genetic resources and benefit sharing. Of course, as you know, the issue of traditional knowledge associated with genetic resources is key and part and parcel of the Nagoya Protocol implementation. And so that is why we also have to look at that. And so here we are, and we've got the team ready to take you through what exactly will be required for us to look into or to develop these user-friendly ABS procedures. And with that, may I give over to you, Beatrice?
Yes, thank you. So Tauco has done a good introduction. The expectations for this webinar today is we will do a small introduction to the capacity building and development program and how to participate in this program for this component. We are going to go through what are the ABS procedures, what they are important, just to clarify some concepts. Some of the outcomes from the global workshop in Bonn. And after I will pass the floor to Melania that will take us through the ECABS guides and how the hub can help you and can participate in this project to make ABS procedures available in the clearinghouse and available for users. We will have also a question and answer at the end, but feel free to go asking questions on the chat. We will try sometimes to respond on the moment, and other times we will just take all these questions at the end. Just to remind everybody that the presentation and the recording of this webinar will be made available also on the website in the part of the for the small grants. They will share the link on the chat. And the previous, if you missed the one of yesterday or information sharing, you can also find it already, not the recording, but at least the PowerPoint, and we will make all the information available there. So whenever you have a question, you can go back to the recording. As Tauco already introduced, for a while and before COP15, the Secretariat was working more on creating the basis. The Nagoya Protocol was adopted, and we were trying to help parties to establish ABS frameworks and institutional arrangements and getting all the prerequisites ready to actually implement. Now, with after COP15 and after these years that we had already, few years already from working on this part of the implementation, the getting ready, with the GBA framework, we are focusing more on what we need to do to actually get an increase of benefit sharing. So sometimes it's more about this extra step. You already have the framework in place, you have done everything, but somehow maybe you are not receiving the benefits as you were expecting. So we are focusing on the doing. What are the practical actions that can translate maybe this theoretical framework that you have put in place, maybe the legal framework, into something that can really actually deliver, and share experiences on how we're actually doing the practical aspects of doing ABS. So this is what brought us here today, and everything also, all this program that we are setting now is based on the outcomes of the Global Capacity Building Workshop that we held in Bonn in October 2024 last year. It was very useful. The outcomes also include a lot of tips about doing ABS, and there is a wealth of information, so I also invite you to consult it because it was a very productive workshop. And of course, everything we are doing is inserted in the capacity building action plan, and this is the vision. And of course, we hope that all of this information fits into the MBSAPs for implementing the GBF, on the implementation of the Target 13 and Goal C, so it's part of the same package. As we were saying, our objective is really advance on Goal C and Target 13, like increase the benefit share. And many of the questions that we're saying is like, okay, what are the things that are not happening maybe at my country that needs to happen to help get the benefit sharing? So on this regard, we are supporting parties to operationalize the existing ABS measures and institutional arrangements and facilitate ABS to happen in practice. And we are doing this through small grants, as we were saying. And these are to eligible parties, IPLCs, and organizations. And this is in 3 components: the community protocols and associated traditional knowledge. That will be we will be having webinars on this tomorrow in English and in Spanish, and also in French on Friday. Today, we are dealing with ABS procedures, and as we were saying, the ABS information systems was the webinar of yesterday, and you can consult the information. So for this component, we are not expecting like concept notes or proposal, but expression of interest. So we will, as you saw in the notification and in the website as well, countries that are interested on participating in this project and develop with the German Nagoya Protocol Hub these easy ABS guides have to fill a form submitting their expression of interest. Those guides that we are going to, you will be working in, will cover both commercial and non-commercial access to both genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge. So would be all the components that are relevant for access and for users. So dealing with for commercial, non-commercial, genetic resources, and traditional knowledge. What is the criteria for selection? We will receive some expressions of interest and things that are required. You need to be a developing country party to the Nagoya Protocol or a party to the Nagoya Protocol with an economy in transition. So this is for developing country parties or economies in transition and parties to the Nagoya Protocol. And you need to have ABS measures and institutional arrangements in place and have published all the information in the ABS clearinghouse. This is because if you don't have the measure and institutional arrangements in place, basically there is no grounds to develop these ABS procedures. So without them, I mean, the work is not possible. And the information on the clearinghouse, because this requires also a level of engagement and showing engagement from the countryside to be part of the clearinghouse and to be part of the Nagoya Protocol and be delivering benefits. A desirable is to have prioritized ABS actions in their updated or revised MBSAPs. Everything that we are doing and that you are doing at national level has to be linked to the MBSAP, so this is important. What are the implications? It's like, okay, if I'm selected, what this means for me? That would require that there is a national authority designated that has a good understanding of ABS measures and procedures. So you need to know what is the situation in your country. And you will be working with the Nagoya Protocol Hub to co-create these ABS guides. But basically, is the country the one that knows how the system goes? The role of the hub is to facilitate the dialogue, to help pulling the right information. So it requires national authorities to have measures, institutions, and know how is the internal process. You have to commit the time and effort to create a high quality product. So needs a commitment. It's not someone, you are not hiring a consultant to do the work for you, it's a co-creation. And you need a commitment to publish or update the ABS guides as part of the clearinghouse. After, there will be opportunity to share experiences and lessons learned. So there will be possibilities of meeting people that are working on the same thing, to exchange on their experiences, learn from each other, maybe see ways of improving your own ABS procedures. And that will happen both with online meetings and also in-person meetings. So you will have some benefits also that will revert to your country and on exchanges of experiences by participating. So to apply, you see there the link, and there is a interest, a expression of interest form, and you have to include the approval from the ABS national focal point, because this is a country activity, so you need the formal approval. And we ask you also to express some preference for doing the ABS procedures, or either in 2025 or 2026, or there is no preference, because the German hub will be working with 5 countries 1 year and 5 countries another. So to see how to accommodate it in the timeline. So we will select 10 countries, and that will be based on the selection criteria, and also we will take into account regional balance. And the deadline for submission of the expressions of interest is the 30th of April. The submission is easy, so shouldn't take too long. So please, yeah, we encourage you. And now I wanted to explain a little bit. We are talking ABS procedures. What is ABS procedures? And like, just so you understand why we have also these requirements and why we are asking countries to have measures in place. So as we were saying, we were focusing on ABS measures, putting the legal framework. However, sometimes the legal framework is just one aspect of how things work. It sets the basis to have an internal process for how to handle applications. Sometimes not everything in the ABS measures, how the internal process and where does it go? Like when someone applied for access, it goes from this institution, after they get this approval, after there is this committee. Sometimes this is already set on the measures, but sometimes not. And sometimes they are differentiated processes. So you have an internal process on how things work in your country. You have the ABS measures, but the next step is what type of information users need to know to actually understand how to apply. For example, users reading an ABS measures, can be helpful, but maybe they don't have all the answers that they need. Like, for example, how do we apply? What are the expectations? When I'm going to receive my permit? All of this information is not available, the step by step. So sometimes also we notice that countries, they explain their processes also the internal processes. And maybe the user doesn't need to know how many steps you have in your own system to process an application. They just need to know that maybe in 10 days you will have an answer. So the ABS procedures is the way of translating this information, but focus, the target audience is the user, the potential user. And of course, they need to be easy to understand, and they need to be in languages. So why are they important? This is a very nice flow that we did in the capacity building workshop. So to start an ABS process, the start point is the user wants to use a resource. First step is like they need to be aware of the ABS obligations. If they are not aware of the ABS obligations, they will do their own thing, and yeah, you are losing the benefit sharing in that step. But imagine that they are aware of the ABS obligations and they actually want to apply and comply. The first step is like, okay, how do I do that? Where do I have the information? Who do I have to contact? Tell me. The place to gather the information is the ABS clearinghouse. They could also consult national websites, but this is, for example, maybe very useful for national users, but for foreign users to access to find where is the website, the national website where the information is located, and in the languages could be difficult. So sometimes also a user wants to know how to access a genetic resource in different countries. So the gathering point where is all the one-stop shop is the ABS clearinghouse. Countries, and you are responsible from populating the information that is there. And is where the parties have the obligation to communicate what is necessary for users to know so they can comply. Because what we have been trying to explain is like if they gather the information in the ABS clearinghouse and it's not accurate, it's unclear, they contact an all national focal point, and they see this as a difficult process, you might be losing a user. And actually to try to after get through what happens with the misappropriation of the resource and the compliance side might be more difficult than actually make things easier for users on that point, on the ABS clearinghouse, so they know how to follow and it's easy and they are not discouraged by the ABS process. I think that's very important if we want to really get the benefits. So what users need to know to comply? They need to be aware of the ABS obligations. They need to know the contact information. So for that, countries, you need to submit the information of the national focal point and CNA and having it up to date. They need to know the scope. It's like, is my genetic resource covered by your legislation? Yes, no. Is my particular very specific case covered by your ABS obligations? All of this helps the user to understand how it applies to them, the national legislation. What do they need to do step by step? And also, as we're saying, certainty, what to expect of the process. It's easier for a user to engage in an ABS process knowing when they can expect to have a response, what are the steps, what are the deadlines, than starting in a vacuum where you start the process and you never know when you are going to finish. Particularly for both, for commercial and non-commercial research, that certainty helps. And the information that users need is easy to find, easy to understand, in different language, accurate and up to date. Only like this we can really increase the benefit sharing and like get engagement from users to commit to benefit sharing and share benefits. As I said, like it's more easy doing it like this than trying to actually ensure compliance in an abstract. So the ABS clearinghouse, I repeat, is the single window for information, for access for all countries and for users. So it's very important to publish the information, and that's why we require it, and that's why we need the ABS procedures there. So some tips from ABS procedures from the global workshop. We discussed this and the importance, and it was a general consensus how key this information is. The ABS procedures have to include the external process, what the user needs to know, including expectations and timelines in each step, so they know what are they getting into. They have to provide the step-by-step instructions and the documentation needed. And also you have to consider the target audience. Sometimes it's good to have like you can do one for foreign users, another for domestic users. You might use different languages depending of who you are trying to, what is your target audience. Or you could also consider different ABS procedures for different sectors. So you target a specific audience to be the communication more efficient. So all of these are considerations that you can have it for language, for design, and for the content itself. You have to provide clarity on the scope of the BS measures and the procedure being described. So for example, frequently asked questions like, is this covered? Is this not covered? How do I do in this case? This helps and also helps your work as a national focal point to have all this already pre-prepared. And also to include, when available, a link or reference to model contractual clauses. If you already know what type of contract they will have to fill, please include it. So with this, this is what I wanted to present from my side. Now I don't find, sorry. Just a second, here I am. So with this, I wanted to pass the floor to Melania from the German Hub to particularly go into more the details of the easy guides and how you will work together, and reinforcing again the importance of ABS procedures. I don't know, Melania, if you want me to share the PowerPoint or you want to do it directly? Melania?
I will share. Let me check.
For the moment, we are seeing your screen.
Okay, you are saying now. Okay, perfect. Then I move.
No, we are seeing your screen, not the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Now you see the PowerPoint.
No.
No?
Now. Just maybe in presentation mode.
Now we can see it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we just do it like this. There you go, right? Now you can see the presentation mode.
It's not in present. Now,
There,
now.
it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, it goes a bit delayed. I don't know why, but let's see how we can manage.
It's okay. It's okay. If we have issues, just please let me know.
Yeah, if you don't see something, just let me know also. Okay, so I will share with you about this easy ABS guides, what it will contain, what is the work we are expecting. So first, I would like to explain you a bit about the German Nagoya Protocol Hub project for you to understand why we are working together with the CBD Secretariat in this project. Then I will share with you about the ABS work from the user's perspective, and to let you understand a bit better which are the main challenges from the user's perspective, and then we will go through these easy ABS guides a bit in deep. So our project, the German Nagoya Protocol Hub project, is a project that works with science policy in both directions. You can see our team in the screen. So we work from policy to science, making ABS better. That means to support scientists with compliance obligations from the Nagoya Protocol, to understand what they have to do, how they can obtain a permit, what are the obligations. And then we also work from science to policy. And this is basically support policymakers during international negotiations and bring the scientific voice to these negotiations in order to make informed decisions. We are based in the DSMZ. This is the Leibniz Institute German collection of microorganisms and cell cultures. And we are implementing this project funded by the Alliance of German Scientific Organizations. But what the project is doing right now, as I mentioned, we try to help users to understand their obligations. We perform information sessions, awareness raising. We have a couple of network with users of genetic resources directly. And we develop user-friendly materials to communicate in an easy-to-understand way, ABS procedures, and what is the Nagoya Protocol, and what is access, what is benefit sharing, what is compliance, what you have to do. And we develop, for example, we can then check our websites, but we develop some tools that are interactive. For example, the ABS Word infographic guides the user about what they have to do to understand if they are within the scope of the ABS national legislation in the provider country and what are the compliance obligations in the European Union. And the ABS strategy is very interesting because it has a checklist that help researchers to know what they need to apply for a permit, to be prepared to apply for an ABS permit. And we work a lot with clarifying ABS measures from provider countries, because we found out that always that we ask to users, what do you need to know about the Nagoya Protocol? The majority of the answers are always, we need to have clear information about specific ABS measures in specific countries. So they need to know the legislation, but they also need to know the step-by-step, what they have to do to start requesting an ABS permits. So we have been working in different kind of events. We have these Stammtisch, or the regular meetings of our German Nagoya Protocol Hub network. And we have performed one about ABS in Africa in June 2023, ABS in Latin America, and ABS in Europe this year. So we invite national authorities from the different countries, and we ask them to explain the procedures, and we have user cases, and we have time for questions and answers. And these events have been very important to share the ABS procedures. And coming soon, we will have this new version. This is at the ABS Cafés. This will be 1 hour webinar focusing just one country, and then once again we will invite the CNAs to share the information, and user to share one specific case. And as we will see in deep, we have developed already 2 easy ABS guides, one for France and one for Brazil, and one about Cameroon is in progress with the funding, with the previous funding we have for the project. And just a bit about myself, I used to be the national focal point in Costa Rica. I used to work at the Ministry of Environment, so I know how it feels to work in a competent national authority, answer emails, grant permits, negotiations, and how busy people are in the ministries working with ABS. And then 3 years ago, I moved to Germany, and I started working in this project and understanding the difficulties that researchers have when they need to apply for permits in different countries. Because when we work in just one country, you understand very well just legislation. For you, everything is clear. But when you have to use the user's shoes, then you need to understand not just one law, but many different laws. So it makes the things more complex. And then let's go through this complexity a bit. On the one hand, the ABS is easy to understand by users, is access, request a permit to obtain the genetic resources, or use associated traditional knowledge. And benefit sharing is giving something back to the provider country or the traditional knowledge holders. And the idea of this all benefit sharing is to contribute to conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, and in this way complement the biodiversity conservation. And users, of course, agree to share benefits, and they understand the importance of this benefit and the Nagoya Protocol. But on the other hand, ABS compliance is complex because every country does ABS differently. We understand that different countries have the right to decide how they manage the ABS procedures in their own countries. But then researchers and users, commercial and non-commercial users, start facing complications, right? Because, for example, the Nagoya Protocol is very clear in the terminology, in the definitions, the PIC, the MAC, the international recognized certification of compliance. But when you start reading the national laws in different countries, then they have different concepts, different terminology, different ways to call their ABS permits for commercial and for not commercial utilization. So it gets complicated when you need to understand many different measures in many different countries. And everything can be different. What is considered utilization may be different from country to country. The scope is different. The definitions, the terminology, what kind of genetic resources are covered by the measure could be different from country to country. They could have just one law related to ABS, but sometimes you check the clearinghouse, so what you find is 3, 4, 5, 10 laws that are related to ABS, and this is very frustrating for researchers and users in general, because it is very complex to understand 10 laws in order to apply for one permit. Then in some countries, they have just one competent national authority, but in other countries, they have different national authorities granting permits depending on when you take the samples within the country, or depending on if you use, for example, crops, or if you use wild plants or animals, or if you use microorganisms, or if you want to do research with the marine resources, for example. They could have from one to several different procedures, exceed to access, and the temporal scope bring also important challenges. And as I explained, this complexity increases significantly when users need to request for multiple ABS permits at the same time for a single project. And then when you go to the clearinghouse, or when you check national ABS websites and so on, countries also share this information in different ways. So you can find very nice flowcharts in the clearinghouse, but then some of them are more complex, and sometimes they are super difficult to understand. And we concluded that what users really need is accessible, complete, reliable, clear, and up-to-date information, where, as Beatriz mentioned, in the ABS clearinghouse, of course. So sometimes when you check the ABS clearinghouse for parties to the Nagoya Protocol, you find basically nothing. You find just the ABS national focal point or the competent national authority, but you don't find ABS procedures or legislation, or you don't even know if that country regulates access to genetic resources or not. And just 24 countries have published ABS procedures in the ABS clearinghouse. And then the main message here is user needs to know ABS procedures. User needs to know what they have to do to request an ABS permit. And it is important that we stand in the user's shoes, right? So first, users need to know or to understand if the country regulates access to the genetic resources or associated traditional knowledge, if that specific research or the specific use is within the scope of those ABS measures. This needs to be clear, and sometimes it's not that clear. The exceptions must be clear, and so on. And then which steps they need to follow to obtain an ABS permit. So as you can see, this trip to obtain an ABS permit and find the treasure is not always easy to navigate. Users need this very clear information. And we can do it better. If we share more information and clear information, there will be more access to genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge. And of course, more benefits going back to the provider country. So everybody wins. And then let's go through the easy ABS guides a bit deeper. This is something that we develop as a pilot project, and little by little we understand that maybe standardized ways to show the information is helpful for research, giving flexibility to countries to share their specific parts of the legislation. So this is an invitation from the CBT Secretariat and the German Nagoya Protocol Hub project, and we want to co-create this standardized overview of your country ABS information for potential users. But why this is important? As I said, users need this clear, user-friendly ABS information, and then provider countries can grant more permits and obtain more benefits. And the idea of these easy ABS guides is to reflect real information that is needed by the user. what users need to know. As Beatriz said, users don't need to know if the documentation needs to be checked by the technical staff, and then by the legal staff, and then by the director, and then by I don't know, a committee. They don't need to know that. They just need to know that the documents will be under revision for 10 days or 20 days, and then they will ask the user for their information or clarifications. But they need to know what the user need to do. It is important because it will help users to understand where to start and what to expect from the process. And it also will support competent national authorities and national focal points in communicating with users, in communicating in an assertive way and in a way that users will understand what you are telling them. And it will also help to complement the country profile on the ABS clearinghouse, because at the end of the process, the idea is all the countries that developed these easy ABS guides publish this information in the ABS clearinghouse to make it available for all countries and all potential users. So we developed this standardized format based on the frequently asked questions from the user's perspective. So basically, we wanted to know what the users need to understand, and then we summarize these in these easy ABS guides. And what is that? What is the scope? What users need to know? Which are their questions? Then the most important question, I would say, is what is within the scope of the measure? What genetic resources are covered? What activities are covered? What is considered commercial because what is considered non-commercial? What kind of permit they need? What areas of the country are covered, because some countries cover just national parks, for example, or specific areas within the country. Other countries cover all the national jurisdiction. And very important, if there are clear exceptions in the measure. For example, if you are doing taxonomic identification, this is out of the scope of some measures, and this is within the scope of other measures. So it is important to understand which are the exceptions. Then what types of ABS permits are required, which are the corresponding competent national authorities that grant this specific permit, and which is the contact information from those authorities. What are the requirements? We need to know very clear what they have to prepare to apply for a permit, and what is the procedure. We need a clear flowchart to do that. Then information about how long it may take in average to obtain an ABS permit, just to know how long in advance I need a permit or apply for a permit. How long is the permit valid for? Is for 1 year, for 2 years, for the extent of the research project? Is an extension possible once the project expires, or you need to apply for a new permit every time? Are other non-ABS permit needed? For example, sometimes users receive an ABS permit, but they also need another permit for collect the samples, or another permit to export the samples, not just the ABS permit. So they need the complete landscape, the complete information. Do the national ABS measures address additional associated traditional knowledge, and how? What is the procedure to access ATK? Country-specific features and practical considerations, and what kind of benefits the country is usually expecting from commercial and non-commercial users. And then we will include also relevant links to other websites, platforms, forums that you have developed at the national level. So as I mentioned, we have developed 2 easy ABS guides together with the competent national authorities of the provider country, and the one for Cameroon is in progress. And I will show you one of these easy ABS guides. I would like to clarify that the ones we have already developed are just focused on the non-commercial use of genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge, but we will complement this format with the commercial part also. So I will show you briefly one of these examples, just to give you an idea how it looks like. So for example, this is how the easy ABS guide from Brazil looks like. As we said, we work together with the competent national authority from Brazil. So we included the logo, we included the link to the national authorities, we include a general overview when they ratified the Nagoya Protocol, when they became party, since when they regulate access, contact information. Then, as I said, we include questions about the scope that at this point is just focused on non-commercial, but we will adapt this to cover commercial and non-commercial. So what kind of resources, what kind of activities, what areas of the countries are covered, which are the exceptions for these. We will include a nice table to say, well, if you do these kind of activities, then you need this type of permit and you need to contact these competent national authorities, and these are the requirements. So we are giving the user the key information they need. As you can see, there is a very brief information about just shipment of genetic resources in the case of Brazil, non-commercial utilization and commercial utilization, and what they have to do for each. Then we will include a flowchart, and then you can see what is the procedure. And we try to understand which are the key pieces of the procedure that are repeated everywhere. You need to apply, you need what kind of forms you have to you have to fill up, how you have to send the information, if they have a virtual platform or not, you can send it by email, and then what is the name of the permit you will receive, that in this case, in the case of the Brazilian legislation, is a receipt of access registration. Then relevant links for how long the permit is valid, other permits that are required besides the ABS permit in some specific cases, how they address traditional knowledge, and country-specific features and practical things, and what kind of benefits they are expecting in their legislation. So this is how the ECABS guides will look like, and we will, as I said, include the commercial piece here. Now I go to the PowerPoint again. Then, as Beatriz mentioned, we launched these ECABS guides during the workshop in Bonn. They were also highlighted in the COP16 in Cali by the CVD Secretariat in the ABS Clearinghouse side event and the ABS Clearinghouse workshop. And well, now Beatriz already explained what we are doing with the funding from the Japan Biodiversity Fund through the CVD. And I would like to say that this, for the selected countries, these ABS guides will be yours. You can use them as you want. Your institutional logo and your links will be included. You can share it in your website and the social media. You can use this to respond your inquiries, and you can, of course, share it in the clearinghouse. This is the main idea. And as we mentioned, the key of working together with the competent national authorities is to keep this good balance between clear, easy to understand information and legal accuracy. And as Beatriz said, what we are expecting from this collaboration is a contact person from your country with a good understanding of the ABS measures and procedures, active participation and cooperative work to develop this, because we cannot develop it alone. And at the end, you publish this in the ABS clearinghouse. And as we explained, users need this kind of information to be accessible, complete, reliable, clear, and up to date. We will work with these standardized formats, giving some flexibility to countries, and we will be collaborating with national authorities. And we are very thankful with the CBD Secretariat and the Japan Biodiversity Fund for this opportunity to collaborate and create more ECABS guides. So I share with you the presentation, and Beatriz can share it with you too. And yeah, let me see how I can stop sharing this.
Thank you, Melania, and thank you, Beatriz. We don't have much time left. Are there any questions for clarity or comments? Anything in the chat? Farah?
Nothing on the chat.
Okay, anyone has a burning question for clarity? In the absence of questions, then we must assume that it was very clear and crisp presentations. You have an idea of what we would like to see from you, what we would like to hear from you, and what you are to do. And so we'll be then waiting for your proposals to come in. And should you need any further information, then we provided you with the details there. And you can always send us questions to the details that were just provided there by Gisela. Matt, anything from you? Beatrice, anything that you want to add? Melania, any last points that you may have forgotten?
No, I just want to say that we are really expecting a lot of expression of interest for these DCABS guides, and we will be very happy to collaborate with countries to communicate better the procedures. It will be very helpful, I guess. I believe that it will be very helpful for users, but also for the competent national authorities. It will facilitate their work. Thank you.
All right. Did I see a
There's
question
one.
in the
Yeah.
Yeah? You can take it, Matt.
Oh no, I was just going to say there was a question that Fiorella asked. Do forms to apply for the project have to be written in English? And no, they don't. They can be written in French, Spanish, English, also another UN language we can accept.
All right. Gisela and Farah, any information that you would want to give through?
There's one question on the chat. It says, thanks so
Hmm.
much for very insightful information. Just want to know how much is the funding per project?
Beatrice?
For this particular component, the funding, I mean, there won't be funding for countries. Basically, the benefit would be that you would benefit from the assistance of the German hub. So there won't be funding going directly to countries for this work. Yeah. For the others, this is a different format from the community protocols and the information sharing systems where, the funding could go back to countries as we discussed.
All right. Any other questions that needs to be addressed?
Just a quick reminder to everyone that the deadline is the 30th of April, so it's the end of this month. So this is the component, this is the first deadline of the 3 components. So just to keep the date in mind.
Thank you, Gisela. There was another question there, Farah.
Yes, there was just a request to share the PowerPoints, which we will do. And then one other question was, if access is made in one country and the user is from a different country, does it count as a project involving 2 countries?
Matt?
Well, I think this question, I mean, the idea is that a country develops an ABS easy guide about their own procedures and how other users can access it. So this is not, I mean, it sounds like the project you're talking about is like an ABS agreement between a country and a user, but we're talking about setting up and explaining and communicating procedures for access in a country. So that doesn't sound like a project to me. Maybe you could reformulate your question, or if you want, you can turn on your microphone and ask it more clearly, because I don't quite get it.
Would the person like to take the floor?
If not, you can also, ask it by mail and we can provide more information.
All right. Then with that, thanks for all the useful comments and the gratitude that you have shown in the chat there for what we have prepared for you for today. And we look forward to see some of you again in tomorrow's in the next webinar, and where we'll be looking at developing and implementing community protocols and improving access to traditional knowledge associated with genetic resources and benefit sharing. So that will be tomorrow at 10. And with that, thank you so much to all of you for having come and for having taken the time to be with us here today. And thank you also to the ABS team and to Melania and your colleagues. Thank you so much to all, and see you. Have a good day further.
Bye. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Melania.